The first thing I saw when I walked in wasn't my nameplate missing. It wasn't even the fact that the team whiteboard had a fresh color palette that looked like it had been vomited out of a Pinterest board titled Girl Boss Goals. No, it was Monica. In my seat, legs crossed like she paid rent for the chair, sipping from a Stanley cup like it held the blood of every woman she'd trampled on her way up. "Hope you had a restful break," she said, not looking up from her laptop. "Some of us do the real work." I swear to God, if passive aggression were a font, hers would be in 72-point bold italics. The words hung in the air like cheap perfume, flowery, fake, and trying too damn hard. I didn't respond. Just smiled that tight-lipped, I will bear you in documentation smile, and nodded. 8 years I'd spent here. 8 years of quietly managing crises no one else could untangle, tangling budgets wrapped tighter than a toddler's shoelaces, and watching underqualified peacocks like Monica waltz in with glossy hair and buzzwords, thinking a team sync was a substitute for actual work. She swiveled in my chair and gestured vaguely toward the corner. "They moved you to the desk by the printer. It's more collaborative," which is rich, considering that desk hadn't been touched since Gerald spilled ramen into the keyboard during Q4 planning 3 years ago. Now, before we go any further, if you're listening to this and you haven't hit that little subscribe button or thrown a like, now's your moment. Seriously, 95% of y'all tune in like it's a podcast, but don't tap the thing. Help the team out. We don't ride yachts like Monica. We ride caffeine and spite. Anyway, back to her throne. I clocked the new nameplate, Monica Ray's interim project director. Laminated, like they'd already ordered 10 more. New title, new office politics. New smell, she'd sprayed something that could only be described as vanilla lies and misplaced confidence. And the worst part? She wasn't even subtle. On her second monitor, yes, she'd commandeered a second monitor already, was a color-coded spreadsheet labeled Q3 Strategic Vision Confidential, even though she couldn't spell confidential without autocorrect. She clicked around like she understood it, occasionally throwing in a fake sigh like she was so overwhelmed by her brilliance. I wasn't even mad she was in my seat. I was mad the world made it so damn easy for her to get there. I walked to my new desk, a folding table, basically, and sat down. The chair squeaked like it was protesting my demotion. I opened my drawer to grab the audit binder I'd been prepping for weeks. Gone. I checked the shared folder on the drive. Empty. All 8 tabs and supporting docs. Deleted, I swallowed hard. Not panic, not yet. But the hair on the back of my neck was doing calisthenics. Monica glanced over with a smirk that belonged in a courtroom mugshot. "Maybe you're not as organized as you thought," she said, brushing a crumb off her designer blouse. Designer knockoff, let's be honest. That's when I knew, deep in my bones, that she hadn't just taken my seat. She'd taken the whole damn stage. And she didn't even know her mic was hot. I did what women like me do best. I smiled, I nodded, and I started over. Every document, every transaction, every approval duplicated, stored offline, backed up 3 ways. And just in case someone got cute, I created a little folder called Contingencies. A few hours later, James from IT wandered by, clearly pretending to refill his mug. "I heard you were looking for your audit files," he said quietly, sliding a USB across my desk like we were in a spy movie where the villain wore loafers and used the word synergy unironically. "Figured this might interest you." I plugged it in. Monica's desktop, copied and archived. Every file, every screenshot. One folder in particular caught my eye, titled Sabbatical Inspiration. I opened it. The first file was a Word doc, bullet points like Awaken Body's Truth, Yacht Clarity Session, Someday, Interpretive Dance for Tech Healing. I closed it, took a slow sip of my cold coffee, let the bitter wash over me, because now I had 2 things Monica didn't: documentation, patience. And patience, my friend, is just revenge with a time delay. The next morning, I came in early, earlier than Monica, earlier than the cleaning crew, earlier than God himself, probably. The office lights still flickered like they weren't sure they wanted to be awake. I powered on my laptop and went straight to the shared folder labeled Audit 2023 Emma, where I'd carefully organized every invoice, approval chain, and signed vendor slip since January. Gone. Not empty, gone. The folder itself had been deleted. The audit prep I'd worked on for 2 months, scrubbed cleaner than a VP's social media after an HR complaint. I didn't even blink. I just cracked my knuckles, opened my local backup, copied the whole damn thing back into a new folder. Audit M archive do not touch. I threw in a few underscores for intimidation. If you've ever worked in a corporate office, you know an all-caps file name with underscores is the adult version of a do not enter sign smeared in blood. By 9:17, Monica strutted in, sunglasses on her head like she just came back from Cannes, clutching an iced latte that screamed too much syrup, not enough substance. She glanced at my screen. "Everything okay? You look intense," I smiled. "Just rebuilding the audit files." Her lashes fluttered like the idea hadn't occurred to her. "Oh, maybe you're not as organized as you thought." That's the second time she said that, and the second time I've made a silent promise to haunt her career like a spreadsheet poltergeist. Then she strolled over to her new desk, which I swear had grown tentacles overnight: plants, aromatherapy diffusers, pink Himalayan salt lamp that buzzed faintly like it was cursed. I watched her plop into my ergonomic chair and click around like she was born there. She opened her drawer and pulled out a leather planner labeled Sabbatical Journal. She scribbled something with the kind of dramatic flourish you usually see in a teen's diary right before they run away to become a vegan busker in Austin. Then she clicked her mouse rapidly, like she was deleting regret. My inbox dinged. It was from JG. Ops. Subject, just FYI, no body. Just an attachment and a winking emoji. The attachment was a screen-recorded capture of the shared folder 2 days ago. Monica hovering over Audit 2023 Emma, clicking delete, then quickly pasting a new file in its place titled Combined Q3 Summary FINA L Final 2. My hands didn't shake. My lips didn't move. But something inside me clicked, like a lock turning. Around noon, while Monica was off giggling on a call with Creative Partnerships Reed, her group chat with the VP and his yoga instructor, I slipped into the mailroom to eat lunch. Quiet, cold pasta, no drama, just my usual Tuesday carb coma. That's when Leo from compliance walked in and sat down across from me. He pushed a USB across the table like we were trading state secrets. "Thought this might interest you," he said, stabbing his fork into a sad little salad. "Came in through the ticketing system. Someone filed it anonymously. Metadata says it's from her desktop." I blinked at the drive. He grinned. "Check the folder labeled Yacht Brainstorm July." That night at home, I poured a whiskey, plugged in the USB, and opened the folder. It was a gallery of ego. A PowerPoint with a title slide that read, Monica's Soul Map, a Professional Rebirth. Slides included 5-year vision. From corp bot to conscious creator, revenue is vibration. Monetizing joy, a Venn diagram titled My Truth, the VP, and the C, and then came the word doc, notes for S-Corp exit letter. "I am no longer available for spreadsheet servitude," it read. "My body has awakened. I have felt the sea. I now know what it is to dance without shame, to invoice with spirit, claim the feminine archetype of delegation." I stopped reading. My liver couldn't handle the cringe, but I copied every file, saved it, and renamed the folder Q3 Enlightenment Assets. Then I opened my clean audit files. I added timestamps. I linked receipts. I labeled each PDF with cold, surgical precision, because now I wasn't just rebuilding. I was preparing. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was a quiet war, and I was already ahead. The picture hit Slack like a champagne cork popping at a funeral. There it was, Monica, half bent over the polished teak railing of a yacht, wind in her hair like she thought she was starring in a lifestyle brand no one asked for. Behind her, the VP, shirt unbuttoned one too far, clutched a glass of white wine and gave the camera a smirk that belonged in an HR training video about what not to do on a team-building exercise. Caption, brainstorming new revenue models, clinking glasses, #DocLife, #Q3 Vision. The hashtags did it for me. Q3 Vision was the name of the audit deck I'd built 6 weeks ago. She didn't just borrow it. She drank rosé on a yacht and then branded it. The woman was turning quarterly forecasting into a wine-tasting theme. I didn't react, not externally. My face stayed smooth as a printer jam apology. But internally, my blood turned to carbon steel. I clicked download. Saved the image as doc date confirms AP relationship PNG, moved it into my hidden folder. Contingencies travel non-reimbursables next to it. I added a subfolder. P-card use patterns, because here's what Monica didn't know. When you work finance adjacent long enough, you learn the difference between a personal debit card and a corporate purchasing card. Monica, bless her Lululemon-covered soul, had not learned. Earlier that month, I'd noticed she kept misfiling her Uber receipts under client meals. The vendors didn't even match. One ride to a spa in Sedona had a memo line, vendor onboarding. I cross-checked it with the list. We hadn't onboarded anyone in Sedona. What we had onboarded was the VP's second divorce. I'd started a spreadsheet, just a little thing. color-coded by region, date, and excuse. It wasn't spite, it was insurance. That Tuesday, had a department check-in. Nothing big, just bagels in the conference room, filtered coffee, and 2 hours of passive-aggressive calendar updates. But then the VP stood. He adjusted his shirt cuffs like he was prepping for courtroom drama. As part of our new Q3 strategy, he said, voice all honey and Ambien, I've asked Monica to take lead on the reporting deliverables. She'll be point on the next phase of optimization. A few eyebrows rose. Mine didn't. Monica smiled like she'd just won a pageant for mediocre LinkedIn quotes. Thanks so much, she said, placing a manicured hand on his forearm for one breath too long. I'm just excited to optimize the optimization. I wrote that phrase down, not for quote board, for evidence. The room applauded, lightly, the way people clap when they're trying not to get involved. I stared at the VP, who looked back at me like he expected a protest. Gave him nothing. He wanted drama. I gave him spreadsheets. After the meeting, Monica cornered me at the copy machine. Hey, would love to pick your brain about, the formula logic you use for regional summaries. I nodded slowly. Sure, just send me a calendar invite. Oh, she blinked. Yeah, I will. Once I figure out, Excel things, she didn't even know what she didn't know. That night, I reviewed her P-card activity, bought 3 wireless speakers from a spa boutique in Scottsdale, and listed them under client appreciation gifts. Only, we didn't have clients in Scottsdale. What we did have was a VP with a golf membership out there. I added it to the file. Then I revisited the yacht photo. Zoomed in. The champagne label in her hand was from a Napa vineyard whose invoice had landed in our Q2 Wellness Initiative expense report. Paid via P-card. I renamed the file Yacht Champagne Crossref Q2 Wellness B&G, then I created a new folder. Fuel, because when this burned, and it would, I wanted it to burn clean. No loose ends, no questions, just a match and a folder. And the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd lit it herself. By midweek, the office air changed. You know that weird silence that creeps into a room when someone's about to announce layoffs, or the server's been down all morning, but no one wants to admit they clicked a phishing link. That kind of tension. Whispers in the hallway, closed-door meetings, the finance director suddenly showing up on our floor, twice in one day. At first, it was just a rumor. Compliance is doing a random sweep. But around noon on Thursday, HR sent out a calendar invite with the most terrifying subject line in corporate history. Q3 expense review prep session mandatory. And just like that, every single person with a company card developed a case of selective amnesia. Monica, naturally, was unfazed. She leaned back in her chair, my old chair, and said, loud enough for the interns to hear, well, they'll be bored with mine. It's all just brilliance and spreadsheets. She threw her head back in a laugh that sounded like it came from a yoga retreat and a box of boxed wine. I didn't look up. I was finishing a pivot table that tracked her wellness expenses against known locations of the VP's ex-wives. The next morning, I found a meeting request waiting in my inbox, directly from the VP. Subject, touch base expense, prep. His assistant scheduled it in one of the smaller conference rooms. The ones with no windows. Once people go into write before HR walks them out holding a banker's box and a frozen smile. He was already seated when I walked in, tapping a Mont Blanc pen against his overpriced leather notepad. I sat down, didn't offer a greeting. He didn't either. Emma, he started, oozing that overly casual tone he used when he was about to say something condescending. We all know you've always been detail-oriented. I waited. I think it'd be great if you supported Monica's documentation process. She's new to some of the audit prep logistics, but she's really taken initiative. I nodded once, then twice, then said very calmly I'd prefer to work on my own submission. He blinked, smile twitching. I just think it's important that we show a united front. The audit's not about perfection, it's about collaboration. No, I said, even calmer. The audit is about compliance. Silence. Picked up his pen, tapped it again, then stood up like he had another meeting, though I could see his calendar behind him blank until 2 p.m. Well, he said stiffly. Let me know if you change your mind. I didn't. Meanwhile, Monica was busy printing things. Printing everything. Receipts, emails, calendar invites, a Pinterest screenshot labeled client gifting aesthetic. And at one point, a list of juice cleanses she'd expensed under Operations Morale Booster. It was assembling her binder like she was entering a science fair. Glitter tabs, rainbow dividers, a cover page that said, Q3 leading with light, I swear she used Comic Sans. At one point, she leaned over and whispered to the HR intern, "This stuff is so boring, right? I mean, who even checks this crap?" Spoiler, I do. She printed 2 versions of a dinner receipt from her Scottsdale trip. One labeled Client Dinner Vendor Exploration, their team building meal VP plus self. She accidentally stapled both into her packet. I didn't say a word. Around 4 p.m., my Slack pinged. It was from Rebecca, the CFO's assistant. Just 3 words, "You've been flagged." I stared at it. Then another message came, in a good way. I closed Slack, leaned back, and looked around the office. Monica was laughing at something on her phone. The VP was staring at her spreadsheet like it might leap up and bite him. Opened my hidden folder, made 1 more copy of everything, and updated the audit file with 3 new items. A cross-reference of her meal expenses against known vendor addresses, a note about the duplicate receipts, and the yacht photo, resized for clarity. Then I renamed the top folder, Q3 Audit Evidence Final for real this time PDF, because if they wanted brilliance and spreadsheets, I was about to give them both. Day of the audit prep felt like a dress rehearsal for a play where half the cast didn't know their lines and the other half were trying to set the stage on fire. The conference room was booked for the entire afternoon, documentation review, project ops plus expense summary, which was corporate speak for let's see who survives the compliance cage match. By 1:03 p.m., we were seated in a horseshoe layout around the oval table. The lead auditor, Karen Brody, stiff bun, practical shoes, glasses hung from a string like a medieval librarian, sat at the head. She was joined by 2 junior associates who looked like they'd been born holding calculators. Notebooks open, pens poised, 0 smiles. Monica made her entrance like she was accepting an award. High heels clicking, binder tucked under one arm, a glittery flash drive swinging from a lanyard around her neck like it was the Hope Diamond. She plopped both onto the table with an audible thud, then took the seat directly across from Karen. As if eye contact could be weaponized. "Thought I'd get us started," she said brightly, flipping open the binder. I color-coded all client meals by strategic objective. The green tabs are for brand engagement. Yellow is vendor exploration, and pink is spiritual nourishment. I nearly choked on my own saliva. She plugged in her flash drive. An Excel sheet bloomed on the shared screen like a virus. Bright pastels, merged cells everywhere, no filters. A formatting nightmare, but she was proud. "As you'll see," she said, clicking to tab 6, "this section details my consulting deliverables handled while I was remote working in Santorini. Very high-level strategy." Click. Tab 7 opened. A gallery of embedded images. Monica on a terrace, laptop open, drink in hand. Monica in a pool, balancing a notebook on a float. Monica on a yacht again, barefoot, doing what looked like breathwork. The last image, dead center, full bleed, was her and the VP clinking glasses in a hot tub under the caption, "Consulting vibes only bottle with popping cork," the file name. VP Daddy JPEG. I glanced at Karen. Her jaw didn't move, but one of her eyebrows rose 0.5 millimeter. That's the audit equivalent of someone screaming, "What the hell is this?" in a war room. Monica didn't notice. She was too busy smiling like she'd just nailed a TED talk no one asked for. "I just think we need to humanize our work," she added. "You know, like bring a little soul to the spreadsheets." I could feel the room trying not to exhale too loudly. Meanwhile, I sat 2 chairs down with a small black folder in front of me. No glitter, no tabs, no lanyard, just receipts sorted chronologically. Vendor lists, cross-checked and approved. Mileage logs signed by both ops and finance. Meal expenses cross-referenced with project timelines and regional client density. And a supplemental spreadsheet, colorless, brutal, legally airtight. Nobody looked at me. I liked it that way. Karen cleared her throat. "Thank you, Miss Reyes. We'll return to your file." Translation: we need a break to laugh or cry or both. Then she looked over at me. "Miss Clark, do you have your submission?" Nodded. "Here." She reached out. I handed her the folder. She opened it, blinked twice, then passed it to the juniors. One of them whispered, "It's indexed." The other one replied, "Of course it is." I didn't speak for the next hour, just watched. Watched as Monica explained how her $140 dinner in Milan was a brand synergy session. Watched her fumble through an Uber receipt that took her to a luxury hammam during business hours, labeled onboarding debrief. Watched her explain a recurring charge for crystal chakra cleansing as vendor research. By the time she tried to explain why a juice cleanse subscription was a strategic detoxification initiative, Karen gently closed her binder and said, "We'll need to review these in detail." Monica blinked. Oh, I mean, sure. But like, it's mostly intuitive, you know? Karen didn't respond. The screen was still on Monica's spreadsheet. Mouse hovered over VP Daddy JPEG like a drunk spotlight. I looked down at my own notes and drew a single check mark. The flame had been lit, and Monica didn't even realize she'd soaked herself in gasoline. The next day, the real review began. This wasn't a prep session anymore. This was the audit. The kind with note-taking lawyers and compliance officers who blink so slowly it makes you rethink your entire tax history. Conference room had been converted into what looked like a war tribunal. Everyone had their laptops, legal pads, and water bottles lined up like weapons. Monica strolled in like she was walking onto a yacht deck in Cannes. She wore a pastel blazer that looked like it had been tailored by someone who'd never met a budget cut. She plopped her glitter-dipped binder onto the table again and gave a breezy good morning, like she was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. The auditor, Karen, nodded but didn't return the smile. She'd already gone into battle mode, glasses on, expression unreadable, fingers hovering over her keyboard like a pianist about to demolish Rachmaninoff. Monica fired up her laptop, plugged in the flash drive, and loaded the same pastel explosion of a spreadsheet from yesterday. She beamed as if she was about to win an award. I figured we'd start with my digital submissions and work our way into the hard copies. Everything's organized by theme, color-coded, and optimized for light clarity. Karen didn't blink. Let's begin with the vendor lunch expenses. Please open the attachment labeled Invoice 3 Final. Monica nodded, clicked around, and opened the file without hesitation. And then the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. On the screen, projected, mind you, for everyone in the room to see, was not an invoice. It was a 5-page, single-spaced resignation letter addressed to my dearest S-Corp. The opening line read, "There comes a time in every woman's career when the siren call of her inner fire drowns out the sterile clack of corporate chains." You could hear a pin drop. Karen's eyes didn't move from the screen. Her junior auditors froze like they'd just walked in on something deeply private and vaguely spiritual. Monica's voice cracked. "Oh, wait. That wasn't supposed to," Karen read aloud, softly but clearly. "I can no longer live in spreadsheet servitude, enslaved by KPIs and quarterly objectives. Last weekend, under the full moonlight off the coast of Marina del Rey, I felt my body's truth return. I must pursue the dance. I must invoice no more." No one made a sound, except Monica, who let out a strangled chuckle, as if we were all in on some grand joke. "Oh my God, that's just a draft. Like a silly vision exercise." "It's not. Obviously, it's not part of my official file." Karen didn't speak. She just kept scrolling. Page 2 had a bulleted list. Potential interpretive dance names. Swaying KPI, the Agile Goddess, Burn Rate Ballet Retreat Theme, Unspreadsheets the Soul with Yoga plus Cacao Ceremony Exit Speech Line. "I gave you pivot tables. Now I pivot myself," someone in the back snorted, loudly, then immediately apologized. Monica was flushed crimson, hands fluttering like injured birds as she reached to close the document. "Let's move on," she chirped, voice high and cracking. That wasn't meant to." Karen raised one hand, stopping her. "Miss Reyes will need to verify the chain of custody on all your submissions, including this document. Who compiled the flash drive contents?" Monica's mouth opened, then closed. Karen looked to the tech auditor at her side. "Please note that file metadata will need to be preserved for internal review. We'll also need access to the original directory path." The tech auditor nodded without looking up. Monica tried again. "It was just a, thought journal. It's not relevant." Karen didn't respond. She just closed the document and opened the next one silently. I sat still, hands folded neatly over my black audit folder, expression unreadable. But inside I was sipping a drink with a little umbrella and watching her yacht capsize in real time. The irony of it all was that she had named the file Invoice 3 Final. She'd wanted to appear detail-oriented. She'd mislabeled her own demise. And in a room where files are scripture and naming conventions are sacred, that kind of mistake is a public confession. Second-hand embarrassment doesn't even cover it. It felt like I'd just watched someone belly flop into a silence they didn't know how to swim out of. And I didn't have to lift a finger. She'd handed them the match. I just made sure the room was full of kindling. I didn't raise my hand right away. I waited through Monica's shaky attempt to pivot the conversation to intentional leadership and emotional ROI. Waited as she stumbled through a half-baked justification for for expensing a $240 brand alignment dinner at a vegan rooftop bistro, where the only client present was a salt lamp. Waited while Karen silently reviewed receipts that smelled suspiciously like personal spa days, dressed in corporate drag. And when the moment was perfect, when the room had sunk into that humming, an easy silence you only get in high-stakes meetings where someone's career is about to bleed out, I raised my hand. Just a small gesture. Calm, measured. The kind of hand raise that says, I have one bullet and I'm not wasting it. Karen looked up. Yes, Miss Clark, I kept my voice soft. No drama, no ego. I'd like to add one supplemental item to the record. Her pen paused. Go ahead. I opened my black folder, pulled a single printed email from the tab labeled Unsolicited Communications, and slid it across the table. One of the junior auditors stood to collect it. It's an email, I said plainly, from Miss Reyes, time-stamped. She sent it to me 2 weeks ago. Karen adjusted her glasses and began reading. Subject, quick favor, hey girl, super quick. Can you go back into the April vendor meals and just toss my name on those approvals? CFO like stuff neat. I totally forgot to route them through. Also, could you adjust the dates on a couple to match the meeting invites? Would just help everything line up. Tism, you're a lifesaver. 2 hearts, she read it all, out loud. No one moved. Monica's face went sheet white, her mouth frozen halfway into what might have been the start of a laugh or a sob. Karen folded the paper carefully and set it on top of Monica's binder like a tombstone. Miss Reyes, she said flatly, is this your email? Monica didn't speak. Karen didn't wait. She turned to the compliance tech. Please pull metadata, verify sender, timestamp, and any attachments. The VP shifted in his chair. His confidence was cracking, showing the raw nerves underneath. I think we're starting to get into unnecessary territory here, he said, voice forced calm. This seems like an internal misunderstanding. We can clarify this outside the scope of the audit. Karen turned, ever so slowly, leveled him with a stare that could stop an engine mid-rev. Sir, you are not currently under review. A pause, that may change. It hit like a thunderclap. Half the room flinched. The VP leaned back slightly, throat bobbing, eyes darting toward Monica, who now looked like she was calculating how many floors up we were and if the windows opened. Karen glanced at me. Miss Clark, did you comply with this request? No, I said simply. I declined. I left the records unchanged. She nodded once. Good. The room was silent again. But this wasn't the same silence as before. This silence had weight, finality, like the moment the wheels of a plane leave the ground and you realize there's no going back. Monica's smirk was long gone. Her hands were trembling now, and she clutched her pastel binder like it might float. Karen leaned over to her assistant. Please pull a copy of the April expense summary and cross-reference Miss Clark's approval logs. Then she turned the page on her legal pad and wrote one word in block letters. Fraud, I saw it. Everyone saw it. No one needed to say it out loud. The conversation had shifted. It wasn't about messy spreadsheets anymore, or misfiled dinners, or fuzzy math labeled as consulting synergies. It was about intent. It was about manipulation. It was about someone thinking they were untouchable because they drank wine on a yacht with the right man and tagged it #leadershipflow. And now the flow had stopped. The room didn't just feel cold, it felt clinical, like something diseased was being sterilized before removal. I folded my hands again. Same calm posture, same neutral face. Inside, I wasn't celebrating. I was documenting the moment. Because this was when the ship started sinking. Monica had packed her own anchor. The moment Karen underlined fraud, something shifted in the oxygen. You could taste it in your teeth. It was like the building's HVAC system stopped filtering out the truth and started circulating it instead. We all sat there, suspended in a stillness so sharp you could slice a page with it. Then the door opened. Legal had arrived, not the casual, end-of-quarter contract review crew. No, this was the internal compliance response team. The black-suited, no jokes, badge-clipped-to-belt crowd. The kind that doesn't speak unless it's already been pre-cleared through 3 layers of policy. They stepped in, eyes sweeping the room like they were scanning for explosives. The lead attorney, a wiry woman named Clark, not related, spoke first. We'll need to collect company-issued devices now. She didn't yell. She didn't ask. She instructed. Junior auditor immediately unplugged Monica's laptop and coiled the cord like he was harvesting evidence from a crime scene. Another legal rep approached Monica and held out a plastic zippered pouch. Monica blinked. Wait, now? Clark raised a brow. Now. Monica slowly reached into her tote and produced her company-issued phone with the reluctant reverence of someone handing over a loaded gun. Her hands trembled as she handed over the laptop next, whispering, there's confidential stuff on there, like chakra research and concept decks." No one responded. Meanwhile, the VP stood. He didn't say anything, just pushed his chair back like he was going to casually stroll out and pretend this never happened. Like maybe he had a tea time to get to. But before he even made it 2 steps, Clark's voice cut through the silence. "Mr. Langston, please remain for clarity." That word again. Clarity. Not questioning. Not curiosity. Clarity. The kind that gets carved out with subpoenas and HR escort sheets. He sat back down, trying to act like it was his idea. Monica sat still, staring at the table, face pale, binder untouched. Her glitter lanyard was still looped around her neck, now looking less like a statement and more like a noose made of rhinestones and hubris. I sat with my hands still folded. No one asked me for my devices. No one even looked because I wasn't the story anymore. I'd never been the story. I was the paper trail. I stood, picked up my black folder, slipped my pen into its loop, and walked out. Not a word, not a glance, not a single damn thing to prove. I didn't need to gloat. Didn't need to twist the knife. That would have been inefficient, and I'm nothing if not precise. The whispers started before I even hit the elevator. By the time I reached the ground floor, 3 different departments knew the basics. Monica had been asked to surrender her devices. The VP had been asked to remain. Legal was involved. Files had been flagged. Compliance was circling. By the end of the day, word was official. Monica had been escorted out, her company access revoked mid-step. The VP was on temporary administrative leave pending internal review, which, in our world, is like being put on hospice care with a smile and a press release. Someone found Monica's Himalayan salt lamp in the break room trash bin. Her motivational quote poster, "Work hard, play hard," was leaning against it like a eulogy. The scented diffuser had been unplugged and set on the windowsill, quietly weeping lavender. I didn't go back upstairs. I didn't need to. Everything that needed to happen had happened. Not because I shouted, not because I played games, but because I kept the receipts. In a world where everyone's busy curating an image, I curated the evidence. And now there was only one step left, and the corner office had a window that faced east, where the sun rises. The office felt different that morning, cleaner, quieter, not in a sterile way, but in the way a room feels after someone stops lying in it. The fluorescent lights hadn't kicked on yet, and the hallway still smelled like industrial coffee and faint regret. I walked past the empty desks like I'd done every day for 8 years. Only this time, I didn't turn left. I turned right, toward the corner office, and there, stenciled cleanly on the frosted glass pane of the door, was my name, E. Clark, Director, Strategic Operations, no interim, no asterisk, no announcement, just the truth. I stood there for a second, not to savor it, just to verify it was real. After all the noise, all the backroom whispers, yacht photos and pink binders and inbox daggers, this was the quietest thing that had happened, and somehow the most powerful. I pushed the door open. The light in the room was natural, sunlight poured through the east-facing windows, warming the wood-grain desk that had once belonged to 3 different men who couldn't name their own junior analysts. It smelled like lemon oil and possibility. On the desk was a sealed envelope, no markings except for a sticky note folded over the edge. In the CFO's neat handwriting, "You were never invisible, you were essential." I didn't smile, not out of pride, but because this was never about being seen. It was about being undeniable. I placed the note inside my drawer, top left, right beside my audit logins and my encrypted drive. Then I sat down. The chair adjusted automatically. It was the expensive kind, one Monica used to call throne-like in her aspirational Pinterest boards. I opened my laptop. It chirped to life like nothing had changed, but everything had. Notifications blinked in the corner, new team invites, HR onboarding links for reports I hadn't met yet, a system access request from finance. I closed most of them. Instead, I opened my file directory, navigated to my secured folder, created a new subfolder, titled it VP Settlement Documents Draft because Monica may have been gone, and the VP may have been on leave. But the real paperwork was just beginning. Settlements leave trails. Payouts have signatures. And golden parachutes have pinholes you can thread with the right questions someone like me knows how to phrase. I sipped my coffee. Black. No cream, no sugar, no illusion. Across the room, near the small side trash bin, I saw it, still leaning against the wall where facilities had left it. A dusty, bent frame. Inside, Monica's old motivational quote, "Work hard, play hard." The frame was cracked in the corner, the glass spiderwebbed, fitting really. I thought about throwing it out, then thought better of it. No, let it stay, let it watch. Because the real motto, keep receipts, win quietly. And in the end, that's what I did. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.